This is Delish grilled cheese. Take 4.
It is a Delish grilled cheese, thank you.
Hey, what's up? I'm Josh from Mythical Kitchen. So you may or may not have seen the drama surrounding my beloved ramen grilled cheese recipe and Gordon Ramsay's roasting of it.
I'd like to ram that somewhere in the toilet.
And then my subsequent roasting of Gordon Ramsay's grilled cheese.
Gordon, that was a trash grilled cheese. I love you and I'm sorry, and Gordon Ramsay stands, don't come for me, but this grilled cheese is inexcusable.
Anyways, what it made me realize is that I have never shown you how to make my perfect grilled cheese, so that is exactly what we're doing here today. Speaking of the perfect grilled cheese, what goes into the perfect grilled cheese? Obviously, it starts with the bread. So what I'm using here, I call grocery store sourdough. It's like in that perfect middle ground between something artisanal, which for me has too much crust, so it becomes obstructive, or something just like a Wonder Bread, which for me is a little bit too cakey. So I'm using this perfectly floppy grocery store sourdough, which is from a brand called San Luis sourdough. It gives you like a ton of surface area, so it can hold so much molten cheese in there. The cheeses I like to use in a grilled cheese, the most important one is this beautiful floppy guy right here. So we're using American cheese, and this is really important to me. But when you say American cheese, people typically think of Kraft Singles, which is technically pasteurized processed American cheese food, meaning it contains under a certain percentage of cheese to other dairy ingredients. So we're using Boar's Head American cheese here. You can get it from the deli in any major supermarket, and it's going to melt absolutely beautifully. And the good thing about that is you can add other cheeses that may not melt as well to it. I mean, I'm still using some good melting cheeses here. I'm just manhandling all the cheese right now. We got some sharp yellow cheddar right here, and then we got a little bit of provolone picante right there, sliced at the deli. I think for me, you get the best of both worlds. You get the sharpness of the cheddar, and then the white chewiness of the provolone, and then you get all those delicious melting properties from the American cheese in there. Another thing I love doing with grilled cheese is Gordon Ramsay added some sort of kimchi spread to his grilled cheese.
There's a little bit of kimchi, homemade kimchi,
which is a really fantastic idea. I don't like to go too crazy with my grilled cheeses, but I'm also not a purist. So I like to take one little, I'll call it a condiment. So what we got right here is a chipotle bacon jam, and you can find the recipe for that along with the grilled cheese. It's just red wine vinegar, brown sugar, onions, chipotles and adobo, and bacon. And then this, it's not gonna give you like a bunch of chew, because once you add too much protein to a grilled cheese, then you're in melt territory, which is like a fun territory to be in, but not when you're in grilled cheese land. You know, the unincorporated melt territories, it's like a principle. Anyways, so we're gonna be adding this delicious chipotle bacon jam to the grilled cheese. I suppose we gotta get into technique on this, which I am a little bit particular with. The reason I initially got mad at Gordon Ramsay is that in my ramen grilled cheese video,
Oh yeah, look at that. That's obscene.
fine, pick on the fact that I put instant ramen in a grilled cheese. 1, it is delicious. But 2, I said to put the bread down and toast it and then flip it and then add the ingredients to that. And Gordon Ramsay goes, oh, bread only one side down. Because that's how Gordon Ramsay sounds in my mind, kind of like a Cockney Muppet. I fully believe in toasting both sides of the bread. That way you're going to heat up the cheese when you add it to the warm toastiness of that bread. So hey, let's get to it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a hefty amount of butter. We got about 2 tablespoons, and we're gonna add that into our pan. Like I said, I'm toasting both sides of the bread when we make this. So this is going to be the initial bread toasting that I think is a really important step, because it's gonna bring some of that cheese up to temperature. So we're just gonna nestle our bread right in there. One of the keys to a great grilled cheese is what I would call a sacrilegious amount of butter. I mean, really go for it. Grilled cheese is such a comfort food. Like, now's not the time to start worrying about, I don't know, hydrogenated oils or whatever. Just really get in there with the butter. And so we want our pan on about a medium heat. I'm gonna be cooking this at about medium low the entire time, because one of the other keys to grilled cheese cookery for me is going low and slow. This is what happened with Gordon Ramsay's grilled cheese. This is why I felt so strongly and had to make the video that I did calling it out, because his cheese wasn't melted at all and his bread was burnt because he cooked it in like this open fire, crazy rustic oven on a cast iron, and it got way too hot. So you need to cook your grilled cheese low and slow, because that gives steam a chance to actually rise through the bread, and then that melts the cheese, right? You're not getting direct heat contact with the cheese because the bread is right there. So I like to sort of toast one side of the bread. That's gonna create a barrier that actually maintains more crispiness throughout the sandwich, but it also means you're adding your cheese directly to a hot surface. It's gonna start the melting process. All right, so what I'm doing now, I'm gonna arrange my cheeses. So on one side of the bread, I'm gonna go 2 slices of American cheese, and I'm using a 1-to-1 flavorful cheese to American cheese ratio. When you're adding American cheese, almost anything will melt next to it in a way. So like, say you wanna add goat cheese, blue cheese, other things, as long as there's American next to it, it's gonna create this beautiful oozy, melty mess, and then you can get the flavor of other cheeses. But I'm going to the super classic flavor profile. So I'm gonna go provolone down on this, American down on this, then I'm gonna add more American to the provolone side, And then I'm adding sharp cheddar to this side. And now this is one of my favorite things in the entire world, this chipotle bacon jam. It's just like sweet, smoky, spicy. You're gonna add so much complex character to this grilled cheese. I'm getting really excited at this point. Thanks for being here, everybody. This is fun. I like this. We should do this all the time. All right, yeah, there we go. All right, I'm gonna take this sandwich. I'm simply gonna fold it into itself. And now for me, you got just a little bit of cheese overhang, so when that starts to melt in the pan, you're gonna see it droop, and that's actually gonna be like harbinger. You didn't expect to hear the word harbinger in a grilled cheese video. It's gonna be a little like harbinger, like a messenger being like, hey, I'm ready, pull me. All right, so I have this on like a low, medium-low setting, and what I'm gonna do is add another, really unseemly amount of butter in there. Probably, about 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons. There we go. We don't want to see a ton of sizzle because then you're gonna get too much browning on the bread and the bread's gonna end up burning before you flip your sandwich. I've timed this out several times. On average, depending on the pan, it will take about 7 minutes before you get to that first flip. It's a weirdly low and slow process. Like, we ain't exactly making Texas barbecue here. And you certainly can make a grilled cheese faster, especially if you're using thinner bread. But like a nice thick boy like this, I really like to give it time. So we're gonna pop this in this pan. Take your hand and kind of press it down. I also have this little bacon weight that you can use to press down in the sandwich, which does help, but is not necessary by any means. I'm actually gonna take that weight off real quick. It's like you can get some more surface area on the bread if you really like sort of mash it down in there. But if you keep the weight on too long, you can just mash all the cheese right out your sandwich, and we do not want to do that. I'm a very impatient cook, which is why this recipe is very difficult for me. But to sort of satisfy your need to do something in the kitchen, I take it and I sort of wipe it around the butter that is coagulated at the edge of the pan. Because then you just get more butter on it, which is really exciting. If there's one message that I could get through to Gordon Ramsay on this video, it would honestly be, look to other people's cooking methods for inspiration.
Put a nice hefty scoop of cheese ramen on top.
It seems very stupid that a video of something like ramen grilled cheese or anything else on TikTok could give you inspiration, but that's how new ideas are born. I hope I'm not like making it too poetic, the fact that I put ramen in a grilled cheese and showed what I believe to be a very accurate grilled cheese cooking method in there. But there's no use just sort of like crapping on people for no reason. I guess for him there is, because it's created a several $100 million empire. But in general, I think don't do that. Give this a nice check. You see that cheese on the bottom is already melting. Give it a nice flip. That is looking very, very good to me. We could go a little bit further, but I'm just gonna flip it. I always flip it onto my hand, which maybe gets you in dangerous territory in case you get hot butter somewhere in your hand. And then I take more butter, and I whap it down in there. We just let it pool. Yeah, oh yeah, you see all that nice molten cheese coming down there. That's what we like to see. So now we got another pool of butter in there, and then sandwich goes back in for about another 5 minutes, and then this thing should be absolutely perfectly cooked, all that cheese melted. Wow. So the difference between a grilled cheese and a melt, there is a lot of controversy over this. There was a very viral Reddit post that anytime you add meat to a grilled cheese, it technically becomes a melt. I don't believe in that. I think we need a standard unit of measurement to decide grilled cheese versus melt, and to me that comes down to cheese to filling ratio by weight. I believe if your sandwich is 68% cheese by weight in terms of fillings, and that cheese is melted and it's on grilled bread, to me, that is a grilled cheese sandwich. So that's what I've gone here. We're rocking about a 74 to 75% cheese weight ratio, and that was by design, and that is like one of my favorite things. Gordon Ramsay's grilled cheese had potential. I will say that.
Beautiful. Look at that.
It was simply a structural flaw in how he was cooking it, and also the fact that he was making a video about it. I think if he was cooking that grilled cheese at home without the pressure of cameras, I believe he would have made a good grilled cheese. Like, he had some really cool aged cheeses with like pepper berries.
Romano with pepperberry and Asiago.
And that thick rustic bread, if you would just let that honestly cook in an oven for a long time, it wouldn't have been like a classic grilled cheese to me, but it would have at least been, I don't know, some edible melted cheese. The thing with his is that the cheese just wasn't melted at all. And that is a huge pet peeve, because as long as you have crispy bread and you have melted cheese, like, that's a good grilled cheese sandwich, Oh, you can see it cascading out. All right, so now it's good to flip on this side. You see all that cheese cascading out. But what I do, of course, there's one more small step. I flip it, and then I let it rest on this side in the hot pan for just about a minute, because by the time you're flipping it the second time, the bread on the top has gotten cold. And so now I want to let this hot bread sit there with the bread underneath it getting warm again for about 1 more minute. Then we let it rest for 2 minutes, letting the cheese solidify up just a little bit with the bacon grease from that bacon jam. And again, I'm like, it sounds complicated, but it's not, right? I have said this in a million words, but all you have to do is put cheese that melts well inside bread, fry it in a ton of butter at a relatively low heat until the cheese is melted. And those are the only requirements to a grilled cheese. Everything else is just like an add-on. This is looking good. I'm pulling it. I'm pulling. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. All that cheese pulling at the bottom. So, again, I like to let it rest, let the cheese sit up a little bit, because you see it is so molten down in there, and you do not want a grilled cheese-related injury. This is a true story, actually. I burnt my mouth so badly on a grilled cheese that it blistered, and I could not taste anything for about a week. You do not want that. Let me be your crash test dummy on that and take the brunt. It ain't worth it. All right, this is the best part of my day. I'm gonna cut into it. Oh, yeah. Oh, you see all that cheese just oozing out of there. You got all that bacon fat. The American cheese did its job, and you see how freaking melty that is. I mean, to me, this is what like a perfect grilled cheese looks like, right? Like, it's not ostentatiously big. It's nice and compact. It fits in your mouth. To me, this is absolute perfection. I cannot wait to dig in. So much of that beautiful bacon grease. It's actually colored the cheese. There's not a better feeling in the whole world. Come on. I know people put like perfect in YouTube titles as just hyperbole to get the clicks, but to me, I mean, this is absolutely the perfect grilled cheese. You have all the meltiness from the American cheese. You have all the sharpness from the cheddar and provolone, and then you have that beautifully crispy bread that, like, frankly, is just absolutely soaked in butter. It's so crispy, but then you're getting so much of this, like, spice and aromatics from this chipotle bacon onion jam that's cutting through all of it, and it's doing so much heavy lifting in the flavor department. This, to me, is the perfect recipe for a grilled cheese. That said, there's no right or wrong way to make a grilled cheese. As long as, one, you love it, that's the only thing that matters. But two, you get like hot, crispy bread, you got molten, gooey cheese, you're gonna have a pretty good time. And that, Gordon Ramsay, was the real takeaway from a grilled cheese. Doesn't matter how many pepper berries you put in your cheese, it matters how much love you have in your heart. I don't know, I'm getting the cheese sweats already. This is great. This is the face of a happy man. I mean, this thing is absolute perfection right here. Thank you so much, Delish, and check us out over the Mythical Kitchen YouTube channel. We got new videos every week of groundbreaking recipes. We also got a podcast called A Hot Dog is a Sandwich. It's out every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts. Go make a grilled cheese for yourself. How have you not already? It's still so hot. This thing retains heat. Science needs to study this. I think it's the bacon grease.